we're hardwired to respond as the whole human being. We have no choice. So we will always respond in all those domains, and the wise healer will look at all the information that's possible. So you wouldn't want to ignore any aspect of what a person is if you're wanting to do the best service that you can for someone who's not well, or even someone who is well.
And we're looking for balance and harmony and you know, with nature and herbs. I mean, even Western medicine uses herbs in some of the medications, but often you hear Western medicine critical of herbs. And also, we have dietitians in hospitals, and yet I don't think doctors put much emphasis on nutrition. I know the hospitals don't. The hospitals have a lot of food that leaves a lot to be desired. And Hippocrates once said, you know, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. So that's another thing I think that needs to be taken into consideration a little more.
Well, it's one of the most important parts of medicine, actually. If you're looking at trying to keep somebody well, you want to look at every aspect of who they are and support them in every domain that you can. When you look at how what it takes to get people sick, it's not much. I mean, if your cells are all healthy, you can't be sick. If you work with that premise, which is what the naturopaths do, the orthomolecular people do, what I'm doing in my practice, and what we need to learn to do in Western medicine, there are not a whole lot of ways that a cell can go wrong. I mean, there are genetic factors and certainly emotional and spiritual factors. We all agree to that. But there are also nutritional factors. If you can't supply the body with all the products that it needs to be able to make what it has to make to keep you well, you're simply not going to be well. It's like making a car with no spark plug.
And this often is a problem in the hospital, because a lot of hospitals have junk food, and they have trans fats, and they have high fructose corn syrup, and they don't have organic food. So the food contains also pesticides and fungicides and insecticides.
Well, it gets into the whole area of detoxification. We don't really respect that. So when you're looking at the number of ways that a cell can go wrong, it's genetic, psychospiritual, nutritional, and the only thing left that'll make a cell not work is if you put something in it that doesn't belong there.
Like some of the plastics, too. Like I've noticed in hospitals, the
well, it's not just
pitchers where they pour the water out of, and the cups are styrofoam.
It's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. I mean, we've got 100,000 new chemicals that we've made that are all over the planet. You even find them in the North Pole. I mean, they're everywhere. Or it could be an infection of some kind. So anything that doesn't belong in a cell that's in there can make it malfunction. We'll spend more time on this concept in later chapters of the book as well.
Well, one of the other things that has to do with lifestyle also is getting enough sleep. And I was thinking in the hospital, people often don't get enough sleep either because they keep coming in to interrupt them with treatments and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, there have been a lot of studies done on that, and we know that if you don't get deep REM sleep, you simply don't restore and feel as well the next day. There have been people who have been put in sleep labs that are young people, and the ones that are allowed to sleep through go into REM sleep, and they sleep deeply and they feel refreshed. But if you play a little sound, okay, when they start to go into REM sleep, and they never do, they wake up feeling very unrested, like they haven't gotten enough sleep at all. So these lifestyle factors are all very important at maintaining wellness and how we should be focusing our attention as the primary thing as healers.
And I know one of the things that you've shifted your focus from is from disease care to health care.
That's a lot of what this book is about. I mean, what we do need to do is focus on how are we going to find a way to keep people healthy without being invasive. And so those are the kinds of things that I think we need to focus on the most.
Well, this is certainly a challenge with the $200 billion pharmaceutical industry and a lot of the research being influenced by the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, that's what holds us in check. I mean, a lot of what happens to us in healthcare today is that we're guided by the pharmaceutical industry and the research industry that's connected to it, and the FDA that doesn't regulate it, and the Congress that doesn't support it. And we spend a lot of time later in the book talking about how that works. So definitely, when you teach medical students the pharmaceutical paradigm, what is going to happen is you're going to be finding that that's what they're going to be using in their practices.
Well, one of the things, too, I think that was a good example when we opened up today was about how patients need to take responsibility for their own health care and do some of the research themselves, like this patient that came to you with the ELISA ACT test.
Mm-hmm.
And really, he made a huge difference, not just in your life, but with all the people that you help. And that doctors need to work together and partner with their patients.
We need to be curious about things when we don't know what's happening in a test or in a certain patient's outcomes. We need to look to find out what it was. So if there's a test that a patient takes and I don't know what it is, I call the doctor and ask him. If one of my patients mysteriously gets better and I can't figure out and somebody else does, I'll call them and say, what did you do?
It's kind of like co-creating. And I know that you do this also online with your patients as well. I think it's a really great way to do it, to work with people and not be threatened by the research that they've done and the new information that they've brought to you. I know many patients are afraid to tell their medical doctors that they've seen somebody that does alternative medicine because they don't want the backlash.
Well, it's because the doctors don't really understand what the alternative medicine is about, or what nutritional medicine is about, or what detoxification is about. And so when you don't know something and you're a doctor, it's a particular challenge because as you go through your medical training, you're not taught to not know. You're taught that you're supposed to know. In fact, we devote a whole chapter to medical training and what that's like and why doctors come out being that way. We need to be inquisitive. We need to be free thinkers. We need to go beyond where our training stopped and look at new ways of approaching things whenever it's possible, because that's where the future of medicine is. So we have to keep an open mind to that and support change whenever we possibly can.
I know, I think it's always good to be open to getting different people's opinions and not to be closed-minded. I know, when you first started out, you were kind of closed-minded.
I was more than kind of closed-minded.
I was trying to be polite.
Yeah. No, I remember telling you that when you were taking your vitamin pills that all you were doing is making expensive urine, and I thought that I really knew nutrition inside out. After all, I was a board-certified internist, right? And only to find out that there are all these layers and levels that you can go to with nutrition that get to be very complex biochemistry. And the orthomolecular model that we spend time with is something that is a fantastic thing. So I have a much different perspective on things now. I actually love what I do. I think being a physician is a great honor and a great responsibility and a great challenge because you never can learn enough. And yet it's not the technologies that I think are the important part. It's the being with people. It's not treating a bag, a set of symptoms with a bag of tools. It's about being connected to them and listening. If you listen long enough, more than the 18 seconds that they say a patient gets started before the doctor interrupts, they'll actually tell you the story of their illness. And you get an opportunity to listen to what they have to say and know what's going on in their minds and bodies.